Some of you have reached out to me on X and have asked me a very interesting question. Jesus, you say that so many of Charlie Kirk's words have been taken out of context, and we see them everywhere. And well, we can guess how Democrats and progressives and liberals are using this to weaponize the people against him. But how do we know that they were actually taken out of context? And I tell them, well, there must be some kind of account or video that collects these words and proves against the real deal, the real thing, that they were taken out of context. But I couldn't find anything, so I decided to create the video to, well, let's say, set the record straight to the most egregious examples of Charlie Kirk's words that could trigger people if you don't understand what he meant when he said those words. Just to be clear, this is not I'm not a Charlie Kirk sycophant. I can't criticize Charlie for anything as I could criticize anyone else. But when it comes to set the record straight with what he really said in so many instances, well, let's begin to find out the truth in here. That's something that we can do. And I'm going to thank, this is a bit counterintuitive, because I'm going to thank who looks like a huge Charlie Kirk hater, Walter Masterson, who compiled a very good list of all these instances, his best work, his greatest hits. He wanted to do this, to rally people against Charlie Kirk, or somehow justify that he was shot dead in front of everyone. So let's go one by one, and I will be disproving, or let's say commenting one by one. That is a better word, commenting. Number one, about black people. Happening all the time in urban America, prowling blacks go around for fun to go target white people. That is a fact. It's happening more and more. Okay, according to that's his. Walter has included all this in quotes, so we can assume that those words have been word for word uttered by Charlie Kirk. We're gonna assume that. So he's saying that prowling blacks go around for fun to go target white people. When we go for the stats, and these stats, you can check them at any point in the past 10 years, and you will find the exact same, regardless of who was at the White House, regardless who was in charge. You will see that the per capita odds that a given black person will commit homicide against a white person are about 11 times higher than the odds that a given white person will commit homicide against a black person. You can check the numbers. They are very public out there. So it's we also have, how to say this, very graphic proof of what Charlie Kirk meant in those words. So first one has been, proven right, Charlie. Number two, black pilots. If I see a black pilot, I'm gonna be like, boy, I hope he's qualified. And yes, Charlie actually said that. Let's see. So watch those words. Here it goes.
See a black pilot, you wonder, you say, I hope they are qualified. If I see a black pilot, I'm gonna be like, boy, I hope he's qualified.
He said that, but what was the context of what was he saying? Again, he said that he was clipped out of this, and then in his show, he was trying to explain what the moment meant, what he meant by that. Let's watch this.
It's not what I believe, but what it does is it makes us worse versions of ourselves, Megan. That's the whole point of what I was saying, is that I now look at everything through a hyper-racialized diversity quota lens, because of their massive insistence to try to hit these ridiculous racial hiring quotas. Of course, I believe anybody of any skin color can become a qualified pilot. That has never been my contention. I mean, it's silly. It's bigoted to think otherwise, right?
He has said that many times. I agree with him on this. And you're going to see that most of the remarks that are attributed to Charlie Kirk on that he's a racist is the criticize of the DEI scheme that has destroyed so many things in America. And the first thing, that most important thing that DEI has destroyed is counterintuitively black people's lives and reputation. How does that work? It's very simple. I'm going to do a short explanation in here. You have this program that forces industries and companies to hit these quotas. Oh, you have to hire this amount of minorities, no matter what. So you will just refrain from actual meritocracy, from people who are actually skilled and, can do the job, and will actually focus on people's skin color. And if I was a black person, I'm gonna do an example as if I was the one affected. If I was a black person, a black man, I will be pissed, because it means that my reputation, if maybe I am a black person and I put in the hard work through college, through my work, I do everything. Thanks to DEI, people will automatically doubt if I'm capable of doing my job, because DEI is meant to just force minorities into industries and companies just because of the color of their skin. And I wouldn't want to be judged by that. I imagine, what if DEI was about Latinos and I'm a Venezuelan and I show up and I get the job because of my preparation, because I have worked my ass off in college, in my online presence, everything. And all of a sudden, I began hearing over my show, oh, he was hired because of the DEI Latino initiatives. I would be pissed. I would be pissed with the system that forces Venezuelans or Latinos into this just because they are Venezuelans or Latinos. That is not fair. So my reputation will be damaged because of a so-called system that is created to benefit me. That shouldn't exist. Anyone should have the opportunity to get the job, regardless if you're Latino, black, white, Asian. It shouldn't be about the color of the skin, but about your preparation and your skills. And can you do the job? Can you do it? That is the most important thing. That's something that we're going to see more and more. So, yes, at some point, he said, if I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified. And it's an actual concern, and that's a legitimate concern. And you can imagine that there are black people that see a black pilot and they're going to have the same thought because of the principle that I just explained to you. Next one, black women. This is my favorite one. They are coming out and they're saying, I'm only here because of affirmative action. Yeah, we know you do not have the brain processing power to otherwise be taken really seriously. And people are saying that Charlie Kirk said, black women don't have the brain processing power. All right? People are saying that he said that, and he did not say that. It's very, very different. You had to go steal a white person's slot to be taken somewhat seriously. This is what he said. And he was talking not about black women in general, but some very special and very famous examples of DEI. And that's why DEI is so important to clarify.
Joy Reid and Michelle Obama and Sheila Jackson Lee and Ketanji Brown Jackson were affirmative action picks, we would have been called the racist. But now they're coming out and they're saying it for us. They're coming out and they're saying, I'm only here because of affirmative action. Yeah, we know. You do not have the brain processing power to otherwise be taken really seriously.
It's right. It's like the same analogy that I was telling. Imagine that I said I got a job, an important job, and they said I am only here because they have this program that favors Venezuelans and Latinos to enter these jobs. I would be like shooting myself in the foot. People, I would be confirming that I'm only here not because of my qualifications, but because affirmative action, DEI. That is stupid. that would be actually retarded. So yeah, I would be lacking brain processing power to understand that my words are just affecting myself in a spectacular way. So yeah, I think that he had all the right to say those words.
You had to go steal a white person's slot to go be taken somewat seriously.
You know that Charlie, of course, had to agitate. You had to go steal a white person's slot. Charlie, you could say anyone else's, because it doesn't have to be a white person's slot. It could be a nation person's slot, a Latino person's slot. You had to go steal another person's slot. That would have made not about color. It's not black or white. So that's there's a mistake. Charlie, you made a mistake. I have to call you out for this, but we need to be fair. You had a point, but you had to make this about black or white. That does. Oh well, you can't win all the time.
I cut 52.
But I rise today as a clear recipient of affirmative action, and particularly in higher education. I may have been admitted on affirmative action, both in terms of being a woman and a woman of color, but I can declare that I did not graduate on affirmative action. This is my personal story.
Again, he posts more clips about this, but again, there is the principle, and the principle doesn't lie. If you enter because there's some kind of program that forces institutions, both educational or work or whatever, to accept people just because of their skin color, then you are being affected. Your reputation and the reputation of everyone else with your skin color will be affected. So yeah, that is a net negative, in fact. So yeah, Charlie was right. Maybe he said other things that were not that maybe undermine his own argument, but it's still ahead. Civil rights, this is a complex one. We made a huge mistake when we passed the Civil Rights Act in the mid-1960s. The thing that the Civil Rights Act was, more than one title, and it's not like he was against all titles of the Civil Rights Act. I have a very comprehensive, I'm going to summarize this, about the voter registration requirements. Charlie Kirk was okay. We can skip this one. About the access to public facilities, color, white, he was okay with, this is wrong. We need to remove that. He was okay with that. That part of the Civil Rights Act, he was okay. He also was okay with the school desegregation. He was also, he was against the public accommodations. And I can understand that this could be a bit controversial, but I remember when I was a kid in Venezuela. And I remember entering, restaurants, especially restaurants and shops, anywhere. And I always read the same sign, se reserva el proceso de admisión, which in English, literal translation would be, we reserve the right of admission. I really didn't understand that sentence until much later. I was a teen. In which, this means that they have the right to reject service to you on their own discretion. And I told to myself, well, that seems fair. It's their restaurant, it's their shop. If they don't want to serve someone in particular, then they should have the right. I didn't think much of that at the time. I just found that silly that they needed a little sign making it very clear, we reserve the right of admission. And that's what Charlie was against this. So he argued that this title, the public accommodations, argued that it infringed on private property rights by mandating businesses to serve all customers without discrimination, viewing it as a violation of free association, a precursor to excessive federal control. And by the way, this is something that I did myself with my courses. And at some point, I was offering these courses on body language, and very comprehensive courses on training people on body language and be part of my network of consultants. And I realized that I just couldn't let anybody with the money to pay in the program. No, they needed to be vetted. And I had to retain the right to not accept somebody in my program. No, you simply don't fit my program. If I was affected by this, for example, if the government controlled my learning programs, then I would have to accept anybody, even if their background or their intentions or their track record doesn't fit what I was looking for my circle. So that would be bad, right? So anybody with the money to just enter, I would be forced to accept them. No, that shouldn't be like that. And I think that the problem with this is that people instantly assume that this would be based on color. Oh, then restaurants are going to be racist. That is the issue. You should be able to reject anybody for no particular reason, without giving any explanation, because it's your restaurant, it's your hotel, it is my curses. No, you are rejected, and we don't need to explain why you were rejected. You are simply rejected. It's not like you can change something, or maybe I could explain, oh, you know what? We are looking for this profile. You don't fill the profile in terms of your profession. Maybe if you change your profession, maybe you have more experience with that, maybe you can answer, but nobody's owed an explanation. This thing actually meant that you could sue restaurants, or you could complain and say, oh, it's because I'm black, it's because I'm Latino, it's because I'm Muslim or something. That is a problem. That is a problem when the government begins to control what private businesses can or cannot do. I think that I agree with this. I haven't watched all of Charlie Kirk's instance of on this topic, but I think it makes sense. A private business, if you have a business, you should have the right to to reject or accept admission of anybody in your facilities. It doesn't have to be based on race. It's, oh, we don't want you here, you cannot enter here. It's that simple. I think it's very simple. So there are two things here. The Commission on Civil Rights. Having a specific commission on civil rights means that Kirk apparently was against. It meant that there was to be this huge bureaucracy, more, how to say this, pork, more fat added to the government, just to oversee the whatever things were happening with the Civil Rights Act. So yeah, more fat to the government, more spending to the government, and maybe that is a bad idea. It's always a bad idea to have a bigger and bigger government. Also, federally funded programs. Kirk would likely view this as an enabling federal overreach into state and local programs, aligning with his concern about the act creating a rival constitution. And the other thing, most important part, is that this is the employment discrimination. That is one of the most important things, because the part of the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, it's obviously that devolved into DEI and reverse racism, basically an anti-white weapon that so many people have been rejected because of that. And that has actually harmed America in many ways, as in quotas that have to be, you cannot have that many white men in your university or college or industry or company or whatever. That has been devastating, and that is not that was trying to fix an issue without going to the root causes. And the root causes was, why are some people, why are some people, how to say this, have their abilities not match what is expected from them at these jobs or these universities. From although the Department of Education is not that they have done a great job at it. This is really complex. My head is hurting, but now you understand that no, Charlie Kirk was not against all the Civil Rights Act. There was some specific points because, yeah, the segregation, the Jim Crow laws, he was against all those. And he explained that in detail so many times, but you know how easy it was to take his words out of context. We continue. And I told you that this video was going to be a bit longish. Civil rights, we mentioned death penalty. Death penalties should be public, should be quick, should be televised. I think at a certain age is an initiation. At what age should you start to see public executions? I don't need to find what kind of context of, because I agree with this wholeheartedly. Death penalties should be public. And that's period. I have no problem with that. Democrats. The Democrat Party supports everything that God hates. No lies detected. Next one. Empathy. I can't stand the word empathy. Actually, I think empathy is a made-up New Age term that does a lot of damage. And they made sure to cut the rest of the quote, and I have the rest of the quote for you, because the rest of the quote is that really tells the story. Thanks to Jebra Fauché for sharing this. I can't stand the word empathy, actually. I think empathy is a made-up New Age term, and it does a lot of damage. I much prefer the word compassion, and I much prefer the word sympathy. Empathy is where you try to feel someone's pain and sorrows as if they're your own. Compassion allows from understanding. I prefer the word sympathy because politics has weaponized empathy. Nice. I prefer the word sympathy. You see how his words are taken out of context? Next one. Where's the next one? I'm pretty sure I'm going to add chapters to this video so you can just browse at your leisure. Feminism. Reject feminism. Submit to your husband, Taylor. You're not in charge. Oh, yeah. He was talking about that Taylor is Taylor Swift. And that's when Taylor Swift announced her engagement to Travis Kelce. And they published these amazing, beautiful pictures of their engagement. But these are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 words, 10 words taken out of 4-minute speech that Charlie Kirk gave to Taylor Swift. And he was encouraging of Taylor Swift, and he was encouraging of Travis Kelce. He was wishing them the best to have kids, and saying that maybe I have that clip right here. For it's very easy to find it online, but for brevity's sake, for this video, I'm just going to play the last part when he says the words were taken out of context. But he's really encouraging for Taylor Swift and Travis, in the sense that maybe if they have kids, they will have this awakening to a new life. I remember the words of Johnny Depp when he said, "When my daughter was born, it's like my actual life began." And I couldn't agree more. Something that you feel, something it's a fact. Charlie was trying to tell them that yes, that you have the opportunity to have a wonderful life, a fulfilling life by having children. And again, I am not criticizing anybody who decides to not have children. If you decide to not have children, that is okay. I have no problem with that. But it is a fact that having children will change your life in ways that you cannot imagine, for the better. You have to be ready, of course. It's not going to be easy. But of course, he joked that I wish Taylor Swift had more kids than houses that she has right now. That was a good joke. Well, I think that it was not a joke. He was addressing the fact directly. And let's see, in all cases, that moment when he said the words, Taylor, submit to your husband, at the tail end of all this encouragement, of wishing them well, of he hopes that she has this wonderful experience of being a mother. At the end, he said this:
engage in reality more and get outside of the abstract clouds. Reject feminism. submit to your husband, Taylor. You're not in charge. And most importantly, I can't wait to go to a Taylor Kelsey concert.
I can't wait to go to a Taylor Kelsey concert. He was at the end. He was making all these jokes. He wants to go to a Taylor Kelsey concert because if you don't take your husband's last name, then you're not for real. You know, of course, that he was really, really Christian. Really has this is very ingrained belief that they were him. That was him. That was him. So he had that opinion. But it's important that he said those words at the end of 4 minutes of encouraging and congratulating Taylor and Travis for getting engaged. Again, another thing taken out of context. Where are we here? I think we're rights. Yeah. Civil rights, reject feminism, gay people. You might want to crack open that Bible of yours in a lesser reference part of the same part of the scripture. Leviticus 18 is that you shalt lay with another man shall be stoned to death. So was Charlie Kirk advocating for gays to be stoned to death? Not exactly. There's a problem with this. He was citing this part of the Bible for a very good reason, and people, of course, don't know the whole enchilada. Thanks to Debbie Mack on X, in 2024, Miss Rachel, a kids creator, she's really huge in YouTube, you might know about her, celebrated Pride Month. She defended that. She got, of course, backlash. Oh, you have a channel about kids. Why are you talking about Pride? Why are you talking about LGBTQ? It's not necessary. It's out of the line of your channel. Why are you doing that? She doubled down by quoting Leviticus. And then Charlie Kirk was asked about it. He said in Leviticus, it also says gay people should be stoned. She did not say gay people should be stoned. He did not say that. He said that what he was arguing is that Miss Rachel used a cherry-picked part of the Bible to advocate for Pride Month. Charlie Kirk was on the stage. Just remember that in the same book of the Old Testament, right? Like in the previous, how to say that? In the previous number, she cited the 19 and 18 said that, well, you will stone gays to death, so stop using the Bible, cherry picked. And proof of that, the funniest part of this is that Stephen King tweeted that Charlie Kirk said that gays should be stoned to death. And then, upon closer inspection, he realized he had messed up, and, well, props to Stephen King. I would never believe that I would say that, but props to Stephen King for correcting and apologizing. I apologize for saying Charlie Kirk advocated stoning gays. What he actually demonstrated was how some people cherry-pick biblical passages. 15 million views. Understand? So, another debunked, so many debunked words about Charlie Kirk. We are here on George Floyd. This guy was a scumbag. I think that he pulled his punches. George Floyd was more than a scumbag, but I don't want to get into trouble. If I speak my mind, it's like that Mourinho. I don't want to get into trouble. Oh, scumbag is the least you can say about that guy. Great replacement theory. It's not a great replacement theory. It's a great replacement reality. Just this year, 3.66 million foreigners will invade America. 10 to 15 million will enter by the end of Joe Biden's term. Each will probably have 3 to 5 kids on average, while native-born Americans have 1.5 per couple. You are being replaced by design. No lies detected. This could be out of context all that you like. It's still the truth. Guns. It's worth to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year so that we can have the Second Amendment. Sadly, that is part of the statistics. You will always have, I don't know if I had some, let me see. No, this is from another part of this. This is from the next debunked part. Sadly, that is a part of reality. It's worth to have a cost of some gun deaths every single year so that we can have the Second Amendment. I, as a Venezuelan, and our guns were taken away in 2012, this is the right approach. Yeah, we had accidental gun deaths and unnecessary gun deaths prior to 2012. But now we have been oppressed by a narco tyranny because we don't have guns to defend ourselves. What is worse? I can tell you what is worse. Right now, we are way worse because so many more people have died thanks to the narco tyranny than there were accidental or unnecessary gun deaths when we had the guns. So Charlie was right. That is common sense. I don't need to, that's why I didn't have to look for anything in that regard. We enter some murky waters. Jews! Oh, just the Jews. Jewish donors have been the number one funding mechanism of radical open border, neoliberal, quasi-Marxist policies, cultural institutions, and non-profits. This is a beast created by secular Jews, and now it's coming for Jews. And they're like, what on earth happened? And it's not just the colleges, it's the non-profits, it's the movies, it's Hollywood, it's all of it. All right, so let's say that we need numbers to crunch this. And well, we have a funding of open border immigration reform policies. George Soros, $200 million for racial justice and migrant rights groups. We also have more than progressive and nonprofits, billions in progressive and nonprofits. You can have all those numbers out there. I think it was a generalization as well. I don't like generalizations, but he was being a bit specific about secular Jews. And obviously, not every secular Jew was doing this. And just a mention that progressive Jewish New Yorkers, particularly those aligned with groups like Jewish Voice for Peace Action and Jews for Racial and Economic Justice, are rallying behind Zohran Mamdani for New York City mayor. So, oh my God, I don't know how will that end up. Again, this one is a bit murky because he said Jewish donors and tried to be a bit more specific with secular Jews, but you know how it is. Maybe he mentioned this more times. So many people are saying that that's why that was Israel. It was Israel who killed Charlie Kirk. I already made a satire-ish video about that. I'm gonna make a Netanyahu analysis in short, by the way. But I think that there was actually an public records of Jewish donors pushing for these policies, and it's backfiring. Martin Luther King Jr., MLK was awful. He's not a good person. He said one good thing he actually didn't believe. By the way, I found out that Charlie actually praised MLK at some point and praised him a lot, but then he changed about his stance because all that we found out about MLK's true character was a serial adulterer, alleged rapist, and perverted figure. All of those, of course, is, I think I have some problems with this because you can have two things at the same time. You can have people who have personal flaws and character flaws, but do something good at the same time. One criticism of Charlie Kirk, of MLK, was the deification of King halted progress for Black communities by promoting dependency on government welfare. I don't know the real connection with one thing to another, but I do know that if the government starts to push in welfare for any sort, you could push it for whites, for blacks, for Asians, for anybody, and the moment you push it, you essentially are softening that culture, that ethnicity, call it what you want. It doesn't have to be blacks. It could be anyone. So the problem is that you push for welfare without enabling people to have the tools to prop themselves up, to level themselves up, then it's going to be a problem. Maybe that was the criticism. This is a bit, this is a gray area. I have, of course, conflicted opinions about Martin Luther King, but one thing that is true, that he has been an inspirational figure for many people, so maybe has a net positive in the long run, despite the personal flaws. But if it has inspired people to depend on the government, that is not good. Again, I told you, gray area, murky waters. Muslims, they aren't even hiding their intentions. Muslims plans to conquer Europe by demographic replacement. Will Europe wake up in time? No lies detected. And the European governments, are enabling this to happen. This is something. And so many countries like Saudi Arabia and the UAE in the Middle East are, well, it's like we have tried to warn you that you will have more Islamist extremists by very soon if you keep just letting all those people unchecked. Because all these crazy Islamists, we don't allow them in our country. Saudi Arabia doesn't allow them. The UAE doesn't allow them. Qatar doesn't allow them. So you see a pattern here. Why does Europe, why do these European countries, governments, just allow them and give them all that they want? Because it's a replacement. It's to create chaos. I have spoken about this so many times. I made a video about this called How Governments Use Illegal Immigration to Control You. Watch it. Next one. Oh my God, this is going to be good. Palestine. I don't think the place exists. Well, that was just 6 words. I don't want to get into much details here, but just to remember that some United Nations member states that do not recognize Palestine as a sovereign state include the United States, Canada, Argentina, Austria, Denmark, France, Germany, Australia, Japan, Portugal, Sweden, United Kingdom, Spain, you name it, Greece, Hungary. So many of them do not recognize Palestine as up to this point. So again, you can imagine that there's tons of opinions on this. I am not the best one to talk about this topic, but why haven't these countries and whose governments, so many of them push for, I don't know, some kind of solution, but they don't recognize Palestine as a state? Maybe you can debate that on the comments. I don't know. But again, this is not to represent Charlie Kirk's words in any way. Just find out. And the last one. Transgender people, you are an abomination to God. This is quite ironic. This is I don't know how to say this, but no lies detected. No lies detected. This is like the George Floyd thing. No lies detected. So again, I want to say a few words about this. Charlie Kirk was human. And as any human, he had flaws. He had very entrenched beliefs. He knew what he stood for. And he sometimes changed those points of view. We saw that with Martin Luther King, for example. It's not to say that somebody has to be, has the right to assassinate him because of his beliefs. Because if anyone was more willing to debate and have a conversation about concepts, beliefs, facts, everything, was Charlie Kirk. So if you had any problem, many people didn't even know what he said until he was dead and all this was popping out. It was appearing. And that is the problem. Many words, many sentences just taken out of context because people simply did not listen to Charlie Kirk in the first place, and they are triggered by words and are cheering somebody's death because of words taken out of context. And that is dangerous. That's something that we should avoid. Thank you. If you have watched up to this point, thank you. This was a really long video, but I would like to know what you think about this in the comments. My name is Jesus Enrique Rosas. I'm the Battle Language Guy. Much love and bliss.